In the land of Israel, the people suffered under the oppression of the Philistines. But one night, a woman, barren and without children, was visited by an angel of the Lord with a message of hope. The angel declared that the child was to be a Nazirite, set apart for God. He was never to drink wine, eat anything unclean, or cut his hair, for he would be the one to begin delivering Israel from the Philistines. The woman ran to tell her husband Manoah. Overcome with wonder, he prayed for the angel to return and teach them how to raise the child. God heard his prayer and sent the angel again. Manoah, still uncertain, asked the angel his name, but the angel replied, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Then, as Manoah offered a sacrifice, flames rose from the altar, and the angel ascended into the fire, vanishing before their eyes. In time, the woman bore a son and named him Samson. As he grew, the Spirit of the Lord began to stir within him, marking him for the destiny he would one day fulfill. From an early age, Samson displayed incredible strength, unlike anything seen before. The power of God was upon him, setting him apart as Israel's defender. One day, Samson traveled to Timnah, where he saw a Philistine woman. Though his parents objected, he insisted, for he was drawn to her. During the wedding feast, Samson challenged the Philistines with a riddle. Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. If they could solve it, he would give them 30 fine garments. The Philistines, unable to solve the riddle, pressured Samson's wife to betray him. She wept and pleaded until he told her the answer. She quickly revealed it to her people. When Samson learned he had been deceived, his fury burned hot. He stormed out, struck down 30 Philistine men, and took their garments to pay the wager. Then he left in anger, his bride given to another. When Samson returned to claim his wife, he found that her father had given her to another man. Enraged, Samson plotted his revenge. In his fury, Samson captured 300 foxes, tied their tails together with torches, and released them into the Philistines' fields, burning their crops to the ground. When the Philistines saw what Samson had done, they took revenge by burning his wife and her father's house. The cycle of vengeance had begun. Seeing his wife killed, Samson struck down many Philistines and then fled to a cave in the rock of Etam to hide. Fearing Philistine retaliation, the Israelites themselves bound Samson and handed him over to the Philistines at Lehi. But Samson had other plans. As the Philistines approached, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson. He broke free, grabbed the jawbone of a donkey, and struck down 1,000 men. Exhausted from battle, Samson cried out to God, and the Lord provided water from the ground to refresh him. Samson traveled to Gaza, where Philistines planned to ambush him. At midnight, he tore the city gates from their foundations and carried them to the top of a hill. Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, not knowing she had been bribed by the Philistines to discover the secret of his strength. Delilah pleaded with Samson to tell her the source of his strength. He tricked her, saying he would be weakened if bound with fresh bowstrings. She tested him, but he easily broke free. Again, Delilah asked, and again Samson deceived her, saying he would be powerless if bound with new ropes. But when she tried, he snapped them like thread. After much pleading, Samson finally revealed his secret. His strength was in his uncut hair. That night, as he slept, and the power of God left him. With his strength gone, Samson awoke to find himself powerless against the Philistines. They seized him, gouged out his eyes, and led him away in chains to Gaza. Samson, once the mightiest warrior of Israel, now toiled as a prisoner, grinding grain like a beast. Yet, in the darkness, something miraculous was happening. His hair began to grow back. The Philistine rulers gathered in the temple of Dagon, their false god, to celebrate Samson's defeat. They praised their idol, believing he had delivered their greatest enemy into their hands. The Philistines, in their arrogance, called for Samson to be brought out to entertain them. Blind and weak, he was led into the great temple, unaware that this would be his final stand. As the crowd jeered, Samson whispered a final prayer to God. "Lord, remember me. Strengthen me just once more, so that I may take vengeance on the Philistines for my eyes." With newfound strength, Samson pushed with all his might against the temple pillars. The massive stone structure began to shake and crumble, burying the Philistine rulers and all inside. In his final act, Samson took more Philistines with him in death than he had in his entire life. Israel's judge had fallen, but his legacy of strength and faith would live on. Samson's story is one of strength, redemption, and the power of God to use even the flawed for his greater purpose. His life reminds us that God's plan is greater than our failures, and his strength is made perfect in our weakness.
Well, that was quite a journey, wasn't it? My life was filled with incredible victories, but also some painful mistakes. God gave me great strength, and I used it to defeat the Philistines and protect my people. But I also made poor choices, trusting the wrong people and letting my own desires lead me away from God's plan. In the end, when I turned back to Him, He gave me strength one last time to fulfill my purpose. Strength isn't just about muscles, it's about trusting God and following His ways. When we rely on Him, even when we feel weak, He can still use us for something great. Thanks for watching my story. Remember, God has a purpose for each of us. Stay strong, stay faithful, and always trust in Him. Want to read more? You'll find my story in Judges 13-16 in the Bible. See you next time.